I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited as shit to be here right now, because I am sitting here with the very, very first band on the podcast for episode 3. I'm going to let these guys do the introductions. So, what's your band name? What are your names? And what do you do in the band? And how long have you been a band together?
We are the Final Burial. My name's Lino, and I play the drums.
My name is Brian. I'm the guitar player and bass.
I'm Bloom. I'm vocals.
And we've been a band together for about 5 years.
So you got a new EP coming out in October, I believe, if I read it right. Where was that recorded? And who are you releasing it through? How many tracks is it? This is kind of like a 6-part question, to be honest. But all that, and then most importantly, what is the release date?
So we tracked it here at my place in Crop Circle Studios, and then we sent it over to our buddy Josh from Widowmaker Studios, where he mixed and mastered it.
It's an 8-track EP, and it'll be released through our label, From the Depths. Our release date for the EP will be on October 24th, so be on the lookout for that.
So this one is kind of for each of you individually. So as musicians, what is one or two people that you draw the biggest inspiration from? Like the reason you picked up a guitar pick or the reason you picked up a microphone or a drumstick. What is your biggest inspiration to even want to be a musician?
Well, my biggest inspiration was just music, or just the guitar in general. I really had a liking for it. Then I found out my dad did it, and that inspired me to do it more. And I discovered the bands. First, it was like Metallica and Testament and Exodus, and then I moved up to moved up to Morbid Angel and Deicide and Decapitated, all types of bands. I like a variety. I don't limit myself. I don't just listen to death metal or anything like that. And yeah, those are my inspirations.
Bands I listened to growing up. Korn was one of my favorite bands when I was growing up. Pantera as well. Rage Against the Machine. And seeing all those bands play huge, stadium theater shows, and just having a blast on stage, made me want to be a part of that too.
As for me, I grew up with the regular rock, and as you grow older, you start hearing heavier stuff. But what really made my craft solid was Abacab, the vocalist from Abacab, Midge from Suicide Silence, and Phil from Whitechapel. That's kind of like what built my foundation and made my my vocals and what they are right now. One of the last ones was the vocalist from And Held Followed With, like trying to peak those highs and the maximum capacity, and bringing the best out of each pitch and each level from different vocalists that influenced me.
So this next one here, this next question, it kind of piggybacks on the last one. So individually you have your inspirations, but collectively as a band, what are some artists and bands that you enjoy that collectively you drew inspiration to find your sound?
For me, it would be Glass Cloud. They're one of my biggest influences, mainly because they have a lot of jumpy grooves. Another one would be Bone of Osiris, because in their early albums they were very technical, and they had such a great sound that I wanted to be a part of too.
Bands that influenced me in the Final Burial would be like Meshuggah. I like their style of they have like a jazz technical groove. I don't know. I guess heavy metal, or I would consider some kind of like deathcore in a way. Like it's just a mixture of everything. I don't know. They're they're pretty heavy. Oh, can we cuss on this? I hope so. Anyways, Decapitated. They're one of my favorite bands. They're also a very technical band. I like a lot of technical bands. I do. I like Amir as well, Glass Cloud as well, and stuff like that. Pretty much have similar influences, except for Bloom.
what kind of influenced me with the band. It's a little bit of what the rest of the guys said. Meshuggah, Born of Osiris. I like a little bit more polyrhythmic and off-tempo jazz type of music, kind of like Entities and Prime Meridian and Life Forms. I'm a huge fan of Life Forms. So that's we kind of like pinched stuff from this genre here, this genre there, and trying to kind of like put it into our own sound, plus kind of like implementing our own influence, personal influence, and just adding it and making it to our own unique sound.
So talking about goals and dreams you have as a band, this could be like a literal dream, or this could be like the goal you want to achieve at some point down the line. But if you can answer this individually or together, but if you guys could tour with anybody, and I mean anybody, what is the dream tour that you guys would love to be a part of and love to go on, and who would it be with, and what part of the world would it be? Would it be just like a North American tour? Would you want to tour Europe, Japan? I mean, the sky's the limit with this question, but
The label we always talk about is Sumerian, and you see a lot of progressive metal genres, a lot of bands in that label. A dream tour for me with the bands would probably be Born of Osiris, Animals as Leaders, those type of bands.
Yeah, as well. I would like to see our band succeed and get further. Hopefully become well known and tour the world if we get to. I do want to focus a lot on the music to be able to get that far, and I would love to play with any bands, really, any bands that are out there doing what we love to do as well. And I wouldn't really care where exactly we go, but I would like for it to be in front of like a big crowd. That'd be like the coolest thing ever.
There's not a doubt in my mind that we'll get sooner or later where we need to be, and I'm pretty sure all our hard work is gonna pay off. We deserve to be. We grinded from the bottom, and this name has been more over 10 years, and with this new lineup, it's been about 5 solid years. So once we get where we need to be, I'm not gonna be surprised, but I'll be grateful, and I would really like to tour with, I don't know, the whole world, like just showcase the music, the whole world, where they never heard our style before, and they can learn about it and research it and jam out to it as much as we do. So
one thing I found interesting, really, really interesting, and it piqued my interest, is on your Facebook page in the genre section. You have that your genre is Django, deathcore, experimental. Now I know what deathcore and experimental are, but what kind of sound is Django?
Django's actually a style of guitar playing. It's kind of like an upbeat, groovy, technical style, and try to incorporate that, and especially in our newer stuff. Where I'm gonna really get down on that, oh buddy.
Django's, like what Brian said, is a little bit more loose, more jumpy, trying to like get you off your feet. We're trying to incorporate the crowd a little bit more, so they can, participate into our stage performance, and that's what's a little bit more focused into a little bit more jumping and, grooving it up.
For the new EP you got coming out this October, The 10th Planet, what is the inspiration for the title of that EP? Is that something you just threw together, or is this like a concept EP, or cause it's a very spacey themed cover art? So did you get the cover art first and then try to find a title that wraps around the cover art to make it like one seamless thing, or did you put a little bit more thought into it?
So Bloom wrote a script that we have on our Facebook. It's kind of like our, I think, quota, I think you would say, our theme. So it's, we are a groove past Orion's belt and a heaviness deep within the undiscovered grounds of 10th planet. And I liked that a lot that he wrote that, and I suggested, I was like, hey man, we should write, we should call the album 10th Planet, since our album isn't like entirely based on one concept. It's based on multiple concepts. So we didn't want to like call our album something specific or too specific, and confuse people, I guess. And so, yeah, that's the story behind Ted Plant. And then Bloom drew the art that we have for it. Did a great job putting it together. And yeah, that's gonna be on our EP.
Yeah. So the concept, or not concept, there's a lot of mythological myths from Sumerian texts back in over 4 or 5 thousand years ago, based on Sumerian gods called the Anunnaki, and they kind of migrated over here, and uh, according to the prophecy, it's they had made the modern man and made him a genetic slave for them to mine gold for the atmosphere over there at the 10th planet. So I love the concept and the myth and all the text behind it, and I just had to write some kind of a story behind it, and this is where it led to it.
So each one of our songs has a different theme. Um, one of them's about Nikola Tesla. The other one's about, pollution. Other one's about extinction. But we all follow. We all have like a similar background to it, and yeah, it revolves around the spacey type theme.
Hey, thanks again so much, guys, for being here. I just got a few more questions for you. So I noticed you got the EP release show. Tell us a little bit more about that, and then what are some future dates that you have, so that way, maybe people in my area wouldn't mind coming down to see you guys. Give us a little info on that.
Yeah, so our EP release will be at the historic Cine El Rey Theater. It's one of the oldest theaters here in our city. It's been around since like the 1940s, I believe, and they still have events. They still have bands playing there. Um, Personally, I think it's one of our best stages that we have down here, best sound and stuff like that. As for future dates, we do have another one in our hometown. It's for our ALS awareness show. Our friend Brandon Luna has been doing this show for a couple of years now, and usually gets the heaviest and the best bands in our hometown to play.
So we got a couple tracks we're gonna play from your EP, Nikola Tesla and Season of Pollution. Is there any backstory on these songs when it came to writing them, lyrically, especially like the lyrical content of these songs? Does it have a story behind it, or is it something that kind of just came to you as you went and you just wrote it out verbatim as you thought it through? Tell us a little bit more on that.
I try to be as most creative as I can with when it comes to writing lyrics, just because being in a metal band, there's very minimal amount of topics that you can write of. Like, it's mostly everything the same. So I try to write a little bit more different when it comes to descriptive writing. And as for Nikola Tesla, I mean, if you don't know about him, you should search him up. He was a huge role model for me, and a huge role model for the metaphysical and electrical engineering community. So he really inspired me, and I kind of want to put his name out there and kind of make his name worth it and what he really stood for. And as for Season of Pollution, it goes back to the same thing. Like, we can talk about death and spilling guts for days, but I mean, we've seen it over and over again, and it just really doesn't go anywhere. And for Season of Pollution, I kind of want to make what's going on in the world, making sure that what's really going on in the world, and not just where people are focusing on in the media and pointless stuff. So that's kind of what influences me, like reality as opposed to just emotional thoughts that help me influence lyrics.
So I got one final question here, and this one's kind of a goofy one. If you could answer this individually, if you could pick 5 members to be in a supergroup, one vocalist, two guitar players, or one guitar player if it's easier, one bass player, and one drummer. Alive or dead, if you could make your perfect supergroup, who would be in it, and what would you call it?
Okay, so I would definitely have my idol, Dimebag Darrell, and I would have the guitarist from Decapitated Vogue in a band together with the drummer from Meshuggah and bass player Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse, and I would call it man, that's a tough one. I would call it Prometheus.
My supergroup would be the guitarist and drummer from Animals as Leaders, Towson Abasi, and Matt Garska as the drummer. Vocalist would be the vocalist of Born of Osiris and the bassist of Mudvayne. And I would call it Animals as Osiris, 10-string Palooza.
All right, my super group will be the drummer from Meshuggah, Jason Richardson as guitarist, Josh Travis as guitarist, the bassist from the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza, and vocals. I mean, come on, you gotta go with me, GOAT. So that would be my super group. Oh, and our name will be Lemuria.
Hey, thanks again so much for being here on episode 3 of Straight to the Core. Before we get into the two tracks off your new EP, Nikola Tesla and Season of Pollution, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to From the Depths Entertainment out of Reading, Pennsylvania, for making all this possible. So shout out to them. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here. Let's get into these tracks. This is the Final Burial, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow them on Facebook. Another question I have, final question, before we get into it. Where can everybody find you on social media? Do you have a Twitter, Facebook? I know you have a Facebook. Do you have a Twitter, Instagram? How can people find your music? Bandcamp? Where can people get your new EP? Alrighty, let's get into it. The first track we're going to play is Nikola Tesla, and then we're going to play Season of Pollution. Let's get it going. Enjoy. Thanks for being here again, guys. It's Straight to the Core. Let's get to these tracks.
Other digital platforms that you guys can find us on is Instagram. We are under the name The Final Burial TX. We got a YouTube channel also titled The Final Burial TX. We got our music video up there and a few other live performances. You can download our music on Bandcamp. You can either search us up on the search bar, type in The Final Burial TX. We currently have 2 singles that have been mixed and mastered to download for free. And we also have a very, very old EP from back in the day that you guys can download for free. Once October 24th comes along, we will have our full-length EP up for sale. And we will also have our EP on Spotify and other platforms.
To end this, we would like to thank Straight to the Core for allowing us to have some exposure and showcasing all our music and knowing about us and our information. Joshua Rhodes from Rhodes Entertainment for connecting us to Straight to the Core. Thank you, brother. And special announcements from Joshua Rhodes himself. The website is under construction as well as a mobile app. So we'll be ready for all downloadable music, the one that's actually downloadable. And go ahead and check out the website. You can go ahead and check out their shop, the shirts, the artists, models. I also want to thank Exoverse Media from California. And special shout out to From the Depths Entertainment, our label from Reading, Pennsylvania. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody who's actually supporting us. And any little support and exposure we are greatly appreciated. And thank you everybody who's guiding us to where we're at right now.